Good morning, students. Students, today I am going to explain the poem The Trees, which has been composed by the poetess Andean Rich. Students, Andean Rich was born in Baltimore, Maryland, in USA in 1929. She is the poetess of nearly 20 volumes of poetry, and she has been called a feminist and radical poetess. Students, she has composed this poem, The Trees, for throwing the lights on the position of the woman in the society. The limits of the women are restricted. Okay? And she has also tried to express the silent desire of the woman to move into outside world, which is called the world of women. And for composing, for telling this silent desire of the woman, she has taken as the symbol of trees. Now listen, poetess is saying the trees inside are moving out into the forest. As the trees who are grown inside the house, they do not have sufficient space to grow, to spread their branches. That is why after growing up, when they want to spread their branches, they showed the movement and the branches are stricken to one with the roofs of the house or the panes of the windows of the houses. Now listen, the trees inside moving out into the forest, the trees who are growing inside, who are inside the house, they are moving out into the forest. Women, this way poet wants to say, women who are inside the house are moving out into the forest, out into the world, which is called the world of men. Okay? And women, while the women are restricted to move outside the house, okay, they have to live in their confinement, in their houses only. Okay? And they are not allowed to move outside of their houses. The forest that was empty all these days, and poet is saying that one day, poet is imagining one day the forest which was empty all these days, one day they will be full of trees. And the forest that was empty all these days, and no birds could sit because there were no trees. That is why birds could not sit on the trees. And there was no place for the insect to hide themselves because there were no trees. No sun bury its feet in shadow. And there was no trees. That is why the rays of the sun and the rays of the moon fall darkly on the earth. Rays of the sun were falling darkly on the earth. Okay? And the temperature of the earth is increases. And one day, the forest that was empty all these nights will be full of trees by morning. And then is saying the forest which was empty all these nights will be full of trees by morning. Poet is expressing her desire. In this way, poet is saying with these lines, no birds could sit where, because in absence of the trees in the forest, no birds could sit means in absence of the woman in outside world. There was nobody to soothe others, to console others with their decent and intelligent behavior, kind behavior. Because only the woman shows sympathy, kindness to others. Okay? That is why woman poet is considering women as the place of shelter for the depressed person, depressed children, and depressed persons. Okay, when the person is depressed, then only woman can can make them understand, can make them feel good. Okay, all night, and the woman can make everybody feel good. Okay, that is why poet is saying that before, in absence of the trees, sun rays fall directly on the earth. Okay, and the earth atmosphere was increased too much. Because there was nobody, in absence of women, there was nobody to soothe others, to pacify others. Okay, all nights the roots work. Now poet is saying all nights the roots work in order to disengage themselves from the cracks in the veranda floor. Now poet is saying in order to separate, in order to remove, separate themselves from the cracks in the veranda floor, all nights roots work. Okay, because for the movement of the tree, at first roots should be disengaged from the floor. Okay, in that way the poetess wants to say that women are trying to put their effort to move outside the house. Okay, in order to make the people understand, men understand, which is the root cause of the restriction, of putting restriction of the to the women. They are trying to make men understand, because they are the root cause of putting restriction to the women. That is why all nights roots work. All nights roots work. Women are trying to make the men understand that they, with the help of their writings, like the poet, okay, with the help of their silent desire, that they also wants to live their own life freely in outside world. That is why all nights roots work to disengage themselves from the cracks in the veranda floor. The leaves stain towards the glass. The leaves of the trees put effort towards the glass, push the glass panes of the window. Small twigs, stiff and exertion. Small twigs, small branches of the trees. Small twigs with exertion, long cramped boughs shuffling under the roof. And small twigs of the tree worked hard to break the glass panes of the window in order to move out. Long cramped boughs shuffling under the roof, and the long restricted boughs, branches of the tree, which are restricted to remain under the roof, they are moving repeatedly, shuffling under the roof in order to make effort, in order to push the roof, so that a roof would be broken and they would move outside. Okay, like women are doing like this in order to set themselves free. Okay, and these boughs, these leaves are shuffling, showing the repeated movement. At first they moved and then they were unsuccessful. Again they tried to move. In this way they showed the repeated movement, like the newly discharged patient from the hospital. And when the newly discharged patient from the hospital, who is not fully recovered, trying to move towards the exit doors of the hospital and is confused if he would move outside or not. In this way, he moved repeatedly in a shuffling way. Like that, trees are shuffling. Branches of the trees are shuffling. Like the women are shuffling. At first, women try to move outside, but they again make them stop. Because they considered if they move outside, then the men would rebuke them. But they do not want to. That is why they are restricted in the house. Okay, and they wanted to make the men understand first that they would not restrict the woman to live inside the house only. They first try to make the men understand. That is why they are half confused if they would go outside or not. Okay, and half days I sit inside, doors open to the veranda, writing long letters. Now poet is saying that while writing this poem, poet is saying that she was sitting, doors open to the veranda. She was sitting in the house, and the doors of the room of his house was open to the veranda, and while sitting there, she was writing long letters, in which I scarcely mentioned the departure of the forest from the house. And in that letter, she was hardly mentioned the departure of the forest from the house, departure of the tree from the house. But she was only imagining. Okay? She was hardly mentioned the movement of the tree, movement of the woman from the house. The night is fresh. The poet is saying, the night is fresh. Night is fresh. The whole moon shines. Poet is saying the night is fresh while she was sitting inside of his house and the door was open to the veranda and she was writing long letters and she was only thinking about the situation of the forest and the woman inside the house. Okay. She is saying that night was fresh and the whole moon is shining. Okay, whole moon is shining, full moon is shining. Okay, in the sky, in a sky still open, the smell of leaves and lichen, and she can smell the fragrance of the leaves and the lichens. Usually lichens are the bushy growth on the tree trunk. Okay, we have seen some green colored small little bushes like which are deposited on the tree trunk, which are cast because of the algae and fungus. Okay, it still reaches like a voice into the rooms. It still reaches, and the shaking, fluttering of the leaves, sound of the fluttering of the leaves, it still reaches into the rooms. Okay. My head is full of whisper. What is saying that her head is full of whisper. Whisper means full of low noises, low voices. When the leaves are fluttering, boughs are shuffling towards the roof, then poet imagine if somebody was speaking in a low voice. Okay, so that men cannot listen. Men cannot listen. That is why poetess is saying that her head is full of whispers, low voices. Okay, means when she hears the fluttering of the leaves of the trees and the shuffling of the branches of the trees, she is comparing those sounds with the whispering sounds of the woman when the woman inside the houses start discussing in a very low voices so that men cannot hear what they are talking. If the men will hear, then men will never allow them to go outside. Okay, like that. silent listen, which tomorrow will be silent listen. And poet is saying her head is full of whisper, low voices, low sounds, and tomorrow, next morning, it will be silent. There will be no whisper because all the trees would be in the forest. All the women would be in outside world. Okay? And listen, the glass is breaking. The poet saying, listen, listen, the glass is breaking. The leaves and the branches of the trees breaking the glass. Woman is trying to put their efforts to break the boundaries of the houses, walls of the houses, limitations of the houses, restriction made by, and they are breaking the restriction made by the men. Okay? Bring the houses. The trees are stumbling forward, not trees are stumbling, moving forward. Trees are moving forward. Women are moving forward outside the world. Okay? Into the night. Winds rush to meet them. When trees move, God gets success in moving outside of the world. Then winds welcome them. When the women moved outside the world, then the people living the world welcomed them. Prosperity welcomed them. Okay? Welcome them. The moon is broken like a mirror. And poet is saying, the moon is breaking like the mirror. The moon is breaking like the moon is broken like the mirror into the mirror. Means when the moon rays of the moon were fallen on the trees, then it divided into different parts because of overshadowed by the tree. Okay, that is why we're saying the moon is broken like the mirror. Its pieces flash now in the crown of the tallest oak, and broken into the mirror, its pieces flash now in the crown of the tallest oak tree. Okay, now students, and in this way poet is imagining that one day when women also would be allowed to live freely by the men, and there would be no restriction of the women. When the woman would live outside the world, would be free to live their own life, then then there will be the different picture of the world. Okay, there will be somebody who would be there to pacify the world, because in absence of the woman, world is full of noise, full of disturbance. Understood? Woman entry into the world, entry of the woman into the world is necessary. Now student, I think you will have understood the meaning of this poem. Now, thank you. Have a nice day.